Hello, everybody. Here we are, gathered together again as whatever we are. It's undefined. Anyway, welcome to I Did Not Sign Up for This. And as always, welcome, Carrie. What have we got?
Hey, Tim. I would like to talk about the difference in inspiration and motivation.
Okay.
So, inspiration is something that moves your spirit and it moves your soul, and it can come from a divine source or it can come from within. And my take on the difference in motivation is it's potentially an external source, but it's also a continued drive to achieve a goal. So you have to stay motivated. You have to be able to find your motivation, where I think sometimes inspiration happens without us really looking for it. We have those moments where we're inspired, where we feel something, where we decide that maybe it's an epiphany, maybe you have that moment of clarity, or it's more of a spiritual thing where you get chills and you have that physical reaction that when you're moved by something. But I'm going to argue that inspiration, although it comes from inside of you and it reaches your soul, it's not as impactful for a long-term goal as motivation. So you'll have those moments of inspiration where, you know, like artists have inspiration. They call it their muse, and they're inspired to create something, some form of art, whether it be a poem or a painting or a novel. But motivation, I believe, is what gets you through when you don't have inspiration.
Okay. Because I think that inspiration and motivation are two completely different things.
Okay.
Inspiration is a discovery. Inspiration is a point on a map where you look at it and you say, the Andes Mountains. I'm going to go and hike the Andes Mountains. And I'm going to see Machu Picchu, or I'm going to, whatever I'm going to do, right? Mm-hmm. And
right.
Then motivation comes more in the form of doing all of the little daily things to keep you moving toward that goal. So inspiration in my world is the setting of the goal. This is what I want, and this is the deep and abiding why as to why I want it. And then motivation is reminding myself of that why so that I can do the daily tasks. I've got to do the push-ups. I've got to do the work day to day to day and just be focused on whatever the end goal is in order to keep myself doing the part that requires motivation.
Okay. I can see that. I can see inspiration is in that moment where you set the goal, and motivation is it keeps the momentum, right? Well, I have an example that might contradict that a little bit. The Olympics. Do you ever watch the Olympics?
I've heard of it, sure.
Have you heard of it? It's these little games they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so funny story. I love watching the Olympics. And every time they have the award ceremony, I absolutely feel inspired. I cry for these people because of the endurance and the training and the sacrifice and the harshness on their body and all of the things that they've had to go through to get where they are. And then they get that silver, bronze, or gold medal around their neck, and they're representing their country, and it's this prideful moment, and angels are singing and fireworks are going off, and I'm inspired to the point that I'm crying for these people. And it just warms my heart. It's absolutely inspirational. And then I turn the TV off and I go to bed.
There you go. Absolutely.
So the difference in me and them is that they were inspired to set that goal, and then they were able to find the motivation to sacrifice and do whatever it took to get where they are. And even though it's inspirational to me, it's not it's not something that inspires me to the point of I'm going to set a goal to, play whatever in the Olympics, to play tennis or to play golf or soccer or whatever. And so although it makes me feel good, it's inspirational, it's not something that motivates me to achieve a similar goal. And so I think that although the moments of inspiration that will inspire you to set your own goals, it may not be that inspiration all the time. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I would think that there is a semantical difference here, meaning you are finding inspiration in the pursuit of these athletes, but you're not actually inspired. You're simply experiencing compassion. So you are compassionate to their effort and their drive, their inspiration followed by their motivation and their pursuit of that original inspiration at all cost. And it is absolutely inspiring. But just because something's inspiring doesn't mean that you are inspired by it so much as you are compassionate to the inspiration of others.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll take that. So inspiration, so there's a difference then. So inspiration comes when you have a desire and then you have some kind of reaction to that desire that causes you to take your initial action.
Right. It's innate. Okay. It's intrinsic to the person that you are. And so there are many people that experience this same thing, but it's compassion. It's definitely not inspiration, it's compassion. Because inspiration dictates that you, should you decide to pursue it, go out and start running or rowing or curling or whatever, right? I love curling. I'm that idiot. I will sit and watch curling. And if for those of you who don't know what curling is, it's a Winter Olympic sport wherein there's a great big granite boulder flat on one side with a handle on the other. And basically what the athletes, I use that term loosely, the athletes do is they run along the ice and they guide this granite boulder and then slowly let it go and let it slide down through the ice. It basically converts an ice skating rink into a giant shuffleboard table, right?
Well, I do know that when I was little, I used to think that they were brooms in front of them.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, the little ice,
anyway.
The little wire scrubbers for the ice. And what they're trying to do is warm the ice up to create a little bit of melt just to get the right amount of slide and to form little paths to alter the direction of that piece of granite. And oh my gosh. Here's the crazy part though. I could watch that for hours. Oh. And I don't know what this has to do with inspiration or motivation or maybe, question my mental health. I love it. I kid you not. People, it's very easy to think that I'm just being facetious when I say I just curling. I watch curl every 4 years, Winter Olympics. Every time it's on, I'm watching the curling. I'm rescheduling meetings so I can watch it because these giant boulders, not giant, I guess, right? They're an arm load. But they just go sliding down. And when they hit the other guy's boulder and knock it out of the ring, a la shuffleboard, bam! It's just oh, he got it. I don't know. Okay, so enough about my mental instability. Let's get back to the topic at hand.
I'm sure that the families and of the people who participate in that sport, and you are very pleased to be able to watch that.
Absolutely, that's who's watching it, right? There's there's that one dude. There's it's all the family, and then, of course, me. There's one guy somewhere in the United States who watches curling, faithfully. It's weird. It's I don't know why. Something about the physics of it. Something about it's so slow and dramatic. And
Well, let's not take it that far. It is slow.
dude, it's dramatic. It is. It's just like you're just watching this boulder, and it's unbelievable how far those things will continue to slide when you think it's over. you, you think that the movie's over. No, it's not. It's still sliding. It's still moving. It's still moving. And these guys are up there with the little scrubbers, and they're just scrubbing like mad. And the thing's just slowly moving. It lands in the ring, and you throw your hands up. I did it! Woo! I love curling. I do. And I realize this is some kind of crazy misplaced passion because I've never curled. I will never curl in my life, right? I didn't grow up in Iceland or Norway or something where this is a thing. It's not a thing, right?
Right.
I saw snow a dozen times growing up. But nonetheless, I just, for whatever reason, giant shuffleboard at an ice skating rink. I just dig it. And that's the thing is, I don't like shuffleboard. I don't find that motivating. But something about curling just captures my attention. I don't know. Okay, seriously, we're spending 10 minutes on
the good thing is if you ever go to the Olympics, I'm sure it's one of the cheaper events to attend. So it's also frugal.
Yeah, I think they actually pay you to show up to this one. They pay you and have you sit in the audience. They force all the audience in the arena into one little box that's in the background from the angle of the camera on the other side, so it looks like it's well attended. I don't know. I don't know why I like it, but I do. I like curling.
Hey, now I know what to get you for Christmas.
Here's a curling stone. Oh, thank you. Woo! My very own.
And some ice cubes. Oh.
Seriously. All right, kids, spread some ice out on that patio. Hurry up. We got about 30 seconds.
Oh, my. Okay. Well, let's get back to inspiration and motivation.
All right.
Oh, too funny. So, so compassion. So that's compassion. You're feeling for them because of their sacrifice and their motivation, regardless of the sport. We'll just leave it at that.
That's why. Okay, but to further that point just a little bit, not that I need to, but that's why it translates across so many sports. Because, they're diving and you're diving. They are pole vaulting and I'm pole vaulting. I feel it. And they win that medal or they get that extra quarter of an inch or whatever it is. And you're thrilled. You're excited. At no point will you ever go pick up a pole and think, I know, I'll vault a little bit today. Because it's not your inspiration. You're just feeling compassion because we respect that. We so respect somebody who believes in what they're doing and goes absolutely all in. And for every winner, there are thousands who don't. And so that one person who does becomes very special in our minds. But that's compassion. That's a different thing.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fair enough. I do think that motivation is more of a continual thing. There's a push to keep you on your path where I think inspiration will come and go a little bit. But so if I'm inspired to do something and I start a project and I don't finish it because I lack the motivation to finish it, that inspiration sometimes will turn into frustration. And so you have, even though they're different, I think that they work hand in hand. You can't take action and be successful on inspiration alone, perhaps. Perhaps it takes inspiration to get started and motivation to keep going.
That's what I believe, okay? One is a spark, the other is a flame. Okay.
Got it.
One is a spark and the other is just a slow burning flame that you have to be able to keep going and you have to be able to continually fuel that. So the problem that I think we have from a logistical standpoint is people assume a position of inspiration. They feel inspired, and it feels like just this full-on epiphany. And they decide that they're going to do whatever they're going to do. I am going to renovate this old wooden sailboat, right? And it's gonna be fantastic. And I have a vision for what this beautiful, elegant yacht in the water is going to look like when in fact I'm done. But there are several thousand hours of work between me and the completed renovation of this sailboat. So what we do is we have the inspiration and we spark our flame. Now the flame is lit, it's burning low and slow, and we continually try to fan the flames to keep ourselves working. Every night, go out after work, couple of hours, sand and mahogany, or I'm, working, aligning, I'm shellacking, I'm refinishing this boat. The problem is, once you get removed from your inspiration, you forget where it came from. And that's where we get into trouble.
Oh, I agree with that.
So from a logistical standpoint, if you think that you might be inspired to do something, go immediately and write it down, type it out, record it, videotape it. I don't care if you hold up your phone to your face and go, I have a vision for what this yacht can be, for what my body can be, for what this job, this company can be. And here's what my vision looks like. And then if you will go back on a regular basis and re-listen, reread, re-watch the source of your inspiration, it's not going to be easy, but it's far easier to keep that flame alive if you recall the moment of inspiration. You bear testimony to yourself of what you want and how passionate you are about having that thing or that experience. And that will help feed the flame. It really will.
So let's talk about the difference in living with inspiration versus living without. Because we lose our inspiration. There are some people who haven't found it yet. And maybe that inspiration actually links back to that vision, that moment where you go, I'm going to sail the world. I'm going to start my own business. I am going to run a marathon. Any of those things. There are people out there today that are living their lives uninspired, and they're feeling unfulfilled. So how do we help them find their inspiration? Is it something that you can help somebody find?
Yes, it is. But that goes back to, kind of the first early sessions in, that pursuit of what you really want kind of thing. So you look at it from a coaching perspective. And you go back to the very early sessions of working with a client, and you say to the client, what is it that you want? There are 4 questions involved there in terms of this formula for getting what you want. The first thing you do is ask a logical question, which is, what is it that you want? You live in this third dimensional reality. The likelihood is you're going to want some third dimensional thing or experience, like sail the world or run a marathon or buy a Lamborghini. Doesn't matter what it is. You have to define what you want. Then you, and there's I don't want to oversimplify because there's a lot of soul searching and writing it down and thinking about all of that stuff. You go to the second step, which is, why do I want this thing or this experience, this soulmate, this whatever, right? Now, where what is a logical question, why is a very emotional question. And it's also the more powerful question because it's what drives you to attain the thing or the experience.
Wouldn't the why be linked more to getting that motivation that you need to keep going?
Ultimately it is, but there are a couple of more steps involved there. So what do I want? I don't know. If you were to walk out on the street and ask 100 people, what do you want? What would 99 of them say?
To be happy.
Oh, God, you are self-actualized. That's what one of them would say, sweetie.
Really?
99 of them would say, I want money.
No way.
Yes. I've done the research. I've done the research personally. What do you want? I want money. Because we live in this money-driven society and culture where we feel like money is the cure-all, the panacea for all ills. I can just throw money at my problems. And the fact of the matter is, you sitting out on your little ranch in the desert watching the wild horses, which leads to this immense sense of self-actualization and happiness. Most people are not there. They're just not there yet. And so they think immediately in terms of this hierarchy of needs sort of thinking.
Right.
Where it's all about, I've got to make the house payment, and then I've got to pay the electricity, and I've got to blah, 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 blah. And you just add it up, right? And so they immediately go to money. As a matter of fact, we should do that sometime. We should seriously take a video camera, go out, little microphone. Would you mind being interviewed? Just 10-second question. What exactly do you want? And people will tell you, if sick people want health, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody else wants money. That's what they go to immediately. And then, about 1 or 2% will say something a little bit more profound like happiness or self-fulfillment or self-actualization or a little more esoteric type of thinking. Most people want money, but the fact of the matter is they don't really want money. They want what money can buy. Money is just a knee-jerk reaction. It's a default position.
But money can only buy things that you could potentially lose. And nothing worth truly having in life, in my opinion, nothing truly worth having can be taken away from you. The love that you feel for the people around you, the passion that you have for life, the things that we do. And that's sad, but I will tell you, I saw a video not too long ago that proves your point. And I'm all about taking a video camera out and doing that sometime soon. I think it would be an awesome video, and I think it would be an awesome addition to our YouTube channel. But there was this guy, and he was dressed in I think it was a suit jacket that had money taped to it. So the entire jacket was covered in money, and he hit the streets of this city, and he told people to take whatever they needed. And there were people dressed in nice suits and women in nice dresses with designer purses. And they laughed at it. They thought it was hilarious, and they took as much as they could. And then he goes up to this man who's clearly homeless, and he says, "Hey man, take whatever you need." And the guy took $2. And he's like, "That's all I need." So he had the minimalist mentality, where all of these other people had excess mentality, where I hope that there is a part of the population that would have walked by him and said, "You know what? I don't need anything. Give it to somebody else that needs it more than I do. I'm good. I have a place to lay my head. I have, I take vacations. I have everything covered. I'm good. Give it to somebody that needs it." But these people that lived in excess took more than the man that lived in scarcity. And so the guy, he was like, "You know what, man?" He's like, "I want to make sure that you have food to eat tonight." Opened his wallet and gave him $60. And so it was a really good video, but unfortunately, it proves your point. Now, the downside to that is when you live in excess and you live in that space where you're chasing stuff more than you're looking for inspiration or for the beautiful things that can happen in life, you ultimately are in spiritual scarcity. And that hardens your heart and it hardens your soul. And it will come back and bite you in the ass. It truly will. And don't get me wrong. If somebody showed up at my house and said, "Hey, here's a sailboat for you and all the money that you need to sail around the world, or here's a cabin for you to go live in and write your book and do all of these things. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be appreciative. I would love it. But if things are given to you and you're not inspired and you're not motivated to achieve goals and you're not working towards something, the things that are given to you are taken for granted. So as much as it sounds cool to have somebody come drop a, boat in my front yard, or, give me access to a cabin up in the mountains, or because it's something that would be exciting and crazy and, you'd get those endorphins going and it'd be really cool. The long-term effect of it is you would probably take it for granted.
Attachment is the source of all unhappiness. You attach yourself to these things or these beliefs or expectations, these paradigms, and by attaching yourself to them, you set up the only path whereby you can be disappointed. If you will simply live your life and accept it for what it is and enjoy the moment you're in, there's no opportunity for disappointment and thusly unhappiness. I go back to some of the writings of Diogenes, where Diogenes is famously attributed as having said, "We don't own our things own us." And if you think about that for a minute, you'll realize that there is immense truth in that. So we go out and we buy that nice, shiny, brand new car. And now we have to have a nice, well-appointed garage to park the car in. And we have to carefully manage the cleanliness and well-being of that car. Okay? So it's not just that I'm buying the car or maybe making the payment. I'm also paying for insurance. I'm also paying to have the oil changed and have everything cleaned and have everything, kept polished to a high sheen, and a place to store it out of the weather and the elements, because I'm ascribing a lot of value to this thing that I'm attached to. And because of that, I am its slave. I liken it to growing lawn, right? Grass in your yard is the most ridiculously low return on investment that anybody in the modern world can possibly make. 2 or 3 times a year, you may walk out barefooted and feel the grass on the bottom of your feet. Something you could do for free at a neighborhood park. But we don't do that. We isolate a little patch of land. We plant grass seed. Now, you don't harvest the grass. It doesn't feed you. It doesn't nurture you in any real sense. But that's not enough. You also pay to water the grass so it will grow. That's not enough. You also pay to cut the grass that you've paid to water so it will grow. And you work to keep it nice and even and ostensibly beautiful. Some would argue beautiful. And you just repeat this process day after day, week after week, year after year, investing water, time, energy, your labors. Maybe you're paying someone to mow that lawn to keep lawn. It's the ultimate indulgence. If you look at mankind, even 100,000 years ago, we didn't indulge ourselves for absolutely zero return. The tickle of a blade of grass on the bottom of your feet, are you kidding me? But we do it. We do it all the time. There are acres and acres of freshly manicured lawn all over this country, all over the world.
Right. That people are working on all the time.
It owns us. Do you own that lawn, or does it own you? If you're having to work for someone, but it's not just work for someone or something, you're paying for the right and the privilege to work for someone or something. It's beyond slavery. It's not like they're imposed their will upon you and now you work in the fields and you get room and board in return for working in the fields and your freedom is limited. You're actually paying the water bill. You're paying the gas bill. You're paying for the privilege of having this stuff that you grow and then manage. It's absolutely insane. And yet we do it. I've got grass in my backyard. I need to go out and mow it. Right? But it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think it's just realizing how ridiculous some of the things that we do are. But that's Diogenes. We don't own our stuff. Our stone owns us. You got to understand, Diogenes was a contemporary of Alexander the Great. And Diogenes, when he made this discovery one day, decides that he is going to give up his home with all of the associated bills. He's going to give up all of his material possessions, save the clothes on his back and a single change of clothes in order to wash what he has on his back. And he adopted an old wine barrel in a park. And he lived there just to keep the sun and the rain off of him. And he would live in his wine barrel, and people would come and talk to him as though he were this guru or sage on a regular basis to ask him why he's doing this and why he'd stop pursuing these material possessions. And he would teach these philosophies. He was once visited by Alexander the Great. And Alexander, great warrior, great leader of men, ostensibly, walks in, sits down across from Diogenes for a half an hour, and hears his philosophy on life. He left and has been quoted as having said, "Were I not Alexander the Great, I would want to be Diogenes." He was still attached to his leadership and the appreciation of other men and the material possessions and accolades that brought. Interesting side note, Diogenes lived to a ripe old age. Alexander drank himself to death by 34. And so it sounds like Alexander needed to say, not only do I want to be like Diogenes, I'm going to adopt the lifestyle. Go have your wars. Have your leadership, your accolades. Don't want them. Just want to live my life and observe and enjoy.
That reminds me of the book Into the Wild. Have you ever, they made a movie of it a few years ago. It was, a few years ago, I think it was, the book came out around 1996. I'm not sure when the movie came out, but it was a true story. John Krakauer, great author. He writes a lot of true stories. He's written about a climb to Everest, about Pat Tillman. I mean, he's a pretty good author. But one of the first book I ever read of his was Into the Wild. And it's about a kid that graduates from Emory University. And after he graduates, he came from a very stable, well-to-do family, bailed on his car, left money in his car, and one day just got out of his car and walked away from his life and kept a journal and just lived that vagabond lifestyle. And it's one of the most interesting books that I've ever read, because I love my home. I love the stuff that I have. And I probably at this point in my life will never just get up and walk away from it. But I'm also secure enough with my life to know that if I had to, I would. But things like this, that it interests me because the freedom that he had and the experiences that he had, and there are people that live like that today, and we look at them as, oh, those poor people. They don't have, they don't have jobs that they go to, and they don't have, they don't have things that they go to, or events with people, or the social outings, but we don't know that. I mean, what about, I love going to the farmer's market. There are people there that have made a living going from farmer's market to farmer's market, selling their paintings or selling their jewelry or their, whatever they've designed to sell. And they live more of a minimalist lifestyle. And there is nothing wrong with that. I would even venture to say that they have found their inspiration to do what makes them happy and to make the money off of it that they need to sustain themselves. They're not in a boardroom. They're not getting a $10,000 bonus every year. They're not doing a lot of the things that people do, and that can potentially make some people just as happy as that cute lady that I bought sriracha mango white balsamic vinegar from last Saturday. You know what I mean? She was absolutely happy and self-fulfilled. And you can have people that live in that corporate environment that are inspired and inspiring and motivated, and they go for everything. So it doesn't matter what you do. What matters is how much it means to you.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the Old Gandhi line that I bastardize from time to time. It does not matter what you do in life, but it is incredibly important that you do it. We are very quick to look at people who we decide do not have it nearly as good as us. Why? Because they have no lawn to mow. And we're very quick to assume that, given the opportunity, they would just clamor for more lawn, right? More lawn to water, more lawn to mow, more edges to trim, so that it can look perfect and produce nothing for us. But that's because we live in our own paradigm. We believe that that's great. But then you have to back up and ask yourself the question, why do we believe that that's great? And I'm a firm believer that we believe what we have been told. But then you have to back up and say, who's telling me this? And why are they telling me this? I go back to it's changed a little bit now, but the ever advancing square footage of the American home. It just gets a little bit bigger every year, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now with this millennial generation, or what we're calling millennials, I don't know what good the title really does, but people have backed up and they're talking a little bit more like you and I are talking right now. Why, if a quarter acre of grass is great, then 5 acres of grass must be fantastic. And 100 acres, God, 100 acres makes me a gazillionaire. Right? I do nothing but mow. From
all day long.
The moment I get home at night. No, because remember, I can't do it all day long. Because I've got to pay for the water. I've got to pay for the gas. I've got to pay for the mower, pay for the insurance, make the house payment. Right? But from the moment I pull up at night, I put on my coveralls, buddy, and I'm mowing. I'm edging, trimming, weeding, watering. And I do it all night. And till about 6:30 the next morning, grab a shower, go to work. I never sleep. I just maintain my massive lawn. And at some point, it just gets ridiculous. Right? And we can sit back and see it. You can listen to this dialogue, and it's wildly obvious. We don't want more grass. We want far, far less, if any at all. But we live in a world where we're absolutely encouraged to ever grow, move forward, consume more, gross domestic product, build the economy, grow, grow, grow. But that does not create happiness. It creates a void in our lives, a spiritual disconnect from the meaning of life, however you define that. And then the commercials tell us how to fill the void. Stuff, you need more lawn. When more lawn is the problem. Bigger house is the problem.
Well, the sad thing is all of that is sold under the context of more equates to more happiness.
That's right.
And, if you would just buy this designer purse or get your nails done this way, you are going to be so much happier. Guess what? I'm the same person with an expensive purse and a manicure.
That's right.
It doesn't change. And so I think that leads to, if you are uninspired, you're looking for more to entertain you as opposed to evolve you as a person.
Right.
So instead of evolving on the inside, I want to be entertained. Bring in the gesture,
Right.
And I think that that's dangerous because then you just end up with a bunch of stuff.
That's right. You do. You end up with no relationship with deity or meaning of life, no epiphany, no inspiration, but a crap ton of stuff that you now have to go work to pay for. It's not enough to have the boat. You must wash and wax the boat. And that's where it gets to be a problem. It's just problematic. Stuff is always problematic. And we live in a culture and a society that's constantly encouraging us to acquire, manage, and maintain more stuff. Stuff is your problem.
Yeah, it wears on you. You know, here's the thing. I would venture to say that living uninspired is more exhausting than actually being inspired and getting out and taking action. Because you get into this place where all you're trying to do is get through the day. All you're trying to do is get through one more day and one more job that you're not happy in so that you can pay for that big house and all that grass or whatever that looks like for you. Fortunately, I live in Arizona. I don't have any grass.
There you go.
But you get to a point where you're not fulfilled. And so it's very easy for you to just, if I can just get through this morning, then I can get an hour break and I can go to lunch. And then I can avoid, for an hour, I get to avoid what I hate about whatever it is I'm doing. And then I just have to go back for 4 or 5 more hours. And then when the bell rings and the dinosaur makes that noise, you know, like in the Flintstones, then I get to jump in my car and fight traffic all the way home just so that I can get the mower out.
That's exactly right. Got to get home and get that mower out.
But so there's a difference, because when you are inspired, you don't look at it as a just have to get through the day scenario.
That's right.
You truly look at it as, I get to go in and solve some problems and make some things happen. And I get to have fun and make jokes with the people I work with. And we get to enjoy it. And, I forgot to take lunch today because I was so busy. Or, I was working on this project and I just couldn't stop. And then I get to, come home and work on other things that matter. And hey, if there is somebody out there that truly loves grass and it is their release to get out and mow it, then by all means grow that grass.
Absolutely right. If that is in fact your escape, you've got to ask yourself, am I growing the lawn for me, or am I growing it for the neighbors? Am I growing it because I enjoy the process of growth and maintenance, or do I enjoy the accolades if my lawn is the most beautiful one on the street? Because what you're doing is you're shifting your self-determining power over into the hands of your neighbors or passers-by even. That's one of my biggest confusions in life, is that people will dedicate so much time and so many resources to driving their dream car to the job they hate, to sit in the cube, so they can drive their dream car home and mow the lawn, right? Or whatever it is. And I don't get that. I don't get that. I actually had a client once upon a time, this goes back several years, but I'll share his little experience with you real quick. He worked in Manhattan, worked in the city, and he was spending about, and this goes way back, right? So real estate values are up concerning these numbers. Nonetheless, he was spending about $120,000 a year leasing an apartment in the city for he and his wife, and he had 2 grown children at the time. And he would go schlep into work to this job that he absolutely hated because he had to have the high-powered job. He had to make a lot of money. The rent is $120,000. That comes right off the top after taxes. I have to make this money in order to have this apartment that is relatively close to where I work, okay? And so I talked to him for a minute about what he would rather do. He's like, what would I rather do? Well, I've got about 20 acres upstate, south of Buffalo, just out in the country, out in the sticks. It's granite cliff country, okay? Rolling hills, huge granite cliffs, just lakes, beautiful, beautiful country. He's like, and I've got about 20 acres up there, and I've got a little cabin, and I've got a horse, and the neighbor keeps another half a dozen horses on my land, on my pasture land. And if I could do anything, I would just go up there and be and live. Okay, great. So why don't you do that? Why don't you just drop all of this, go up there and live? It's like, well, I can't possibly do that. It's too far away. I'd have to quit my job. Oh, okay. Well, why do you need your job exactly? Well, because I got to make that huge house payment. Okay, great. Why do you have to make that huge house payment? Because I have to be close to my job. I can't be 4 hours away. So you are working the high pressure, high powered job, making a lot of money to make a huge house payment so that you can go work the high pressure, high powered job. That's right. So do you see that, like, your life path goes up there on the weekends and back here for the week. But once you're here in the week, it just makes tiny little circles. And then it goes up to what you really want. And it comes back down and makes tiny little circles again. And once he got it, he got it. It's like, if I were to sell the apartment, then I could quit the job. Then I could go up to the place south of Buffalo and, drive an old beater truck into town and work at the hardware store and make my ends meet. And I kind of pat him on the back and said, congratulations, man, you've arrived. You have arrived at your destination and you don't even know it because you're so caught up in the paradigms of what the world tells you you must have and be and do. And the truth of the matter is the world does not get a vote. You're the only one who gets a vote. You are the absolute world's foremost authority on what you think and feel. You are the absolute dictator of your own life. You just say, no, I'm not going to work that job. And if that means I have to live in a tiny house out in the sticks, I'll live in a tiny house out in the sticks. That sounds great. I get to decide. If your decision is, beautiful 4-bedroom apartment in Manhattan and go over to the job to pay for, that's great. If that's what you love to do, do it. But don't do it because you live in a paradigm where you believe you have to, because you've been told that by someone with a vested interest. They are interested in you living that lifestyle because it helps them.
Yeah, sometimes those people with that vested interest are people that are living that lifestyle that feels like everybody should live that lifestyle.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, I know when they don't necessarily know that they're miserable, or if they aren't, then good for them. But you can't really project your journey and your life onto other people. I mean, it goes back to when I bought this house. I actually pay less for the house that I'm in on much more land than what I was renting when I lived in Gilbert. But I was told that Gilbert was a safe place to live, and I was told that, it was close to everything. Okay, I would go home from work and I wouldn't go necessarily, I'm not a shopper. So even though it's close to, quote unquote, everything, well, what does it matter? If I'm not that shopper that's down at the big mall every other day getting something, then what does it matter how close it is to me? And I have had some of the most wonderful evenings out here in the desert with beautiful sunsets, and I try to explain to people that it's absolutely my anchor. As social as I am, and as much as I love to get out and interact and do things with people and have those great relationships with people, I know that for me, I need an anchor, and that anchor needs to be wherever I am, wherever my home is,
right?
Where I can go and de-stress and not have to worry about the noise and the activity and everything going on. I mean, at this point now, when a car goes down my dirt road, it's almost shocking because otherwise it's so extremely quiet all the time. But for me, it works. It's what I need. But I remember when I was moving down here, people that I talk to, oh yeah, you want to be in Gilbert, you want to be in Chandler, you want to be where the action is. I don't want action.
Okay.
I don't want action, but we live in a society where you have to be in the action because you need that constant external stimulus.
According to whom, though?
Well, society, right? There are a lot of society feels that way.
Here's what's happening. People are not investing in themselves enough to become self-aware.
Absolutely.
People are lazy, and so they don't do the due diligence. And by due diligence, I mean sitting in a quiet room, just you, no phone, no distractions, pen in hand, book underneath you or a pad of paper, what have you, and saying, what do I really want? If I could envision any life, any lifestyle in the world that I feel like would make me happy and self-actualized and fulfilled, what exactly would that lifestyle look like? And a lot of people have talked about this for a lot of years, but the overwhelming majority of people don't do it. They just rely on the opinions of others. Where the action is sounds pretty good, I guess. They seem to enjoy it. I'm sure I probably will too. And so rather than doing any deep self-analysis to become self-aware about what you really feel and think and want, you abdicate that power to the decision of the crowd and just assume that that must be for the best. It's laziness. The only reason people are not happy, inspired, motivated, the reason they are living these lives of a circular pattern, they're on the merry-go-round, living lives of quiet desperation, into work, home from work, mow the lawn, into work, home from work, mow the lawn, is because they're lazy. They're too freaking lazy to sit down on a Sunday afternoon and imagine a better life. It's as simple as that.
That's true. Well, and that's what we're here for. Is to help people find that better life. Otherwise it's like have you ever been to a bar where the music's so loud you can't even hear yourself think? That's the noise that's going on in your life when you're chasing stuff, because you can't even figure out what direction you want to move in if you can't take the time, take a deep breath and go, okay, I matter. What I want, this is my life. What I want matters. It's not selfish. It's not based on insecurity. It's not even anything more than being aware of what you want to create for yourself. And ultimately, that impacts everyone in your life in a positive light. If you can be that person that gives to yourself, then you're not constantly living in a space of selfishness where you feel greedy that you have to grab, because the only reason that people get greedy and they become selfish is because they are lacking something. And so they cling to everything and try to bring it into themselves to make up for something that they're missing. If you will stop and identify what it is you're missing, you will find the inspiration that you need to set the right goals and the motivation to continue.
And the only thing I would add to that is that they are missing things, people, opportunities, almost overwhelmingly by virtue of what other people around them are telling them they're missing. They haven't done the work themselves to define what they want. They rely upon the neighbors and friends and what we call our immediate culture to tell them what they want based on what those people want. But here's the dirty little secret. Those people don't know what they want either. They are also relying on people around them. And so we find ourselves in this seemingly infinite loop of trying to impress people that we don't like, that don't care about us, that we don't care about. And we usually do that by buying things that we don't need, that we can't afford. And so we waste all of our resources that we're able to create to pursue a life that we actually want. And we waste it on things that we don't need, that others have told us we want and need. And we just assume they're correct without doing any research. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of trading, which is what I do, right? And so that's, to quote Nietzsche again, we see the world not as it is, but as we are. So I spend a lot of my time looking at charts and deducing what the future holds, reading reports and looking at news items to try to deduce, okay, I see some weakening in the dollar, which I don't right now. It's getting stronger, but you know what I mean? And so then you back up and ask yourself, would you just randomly throw money at the deduction of someone else, or would you do your own research? Because the answer is surprising. Most people who trade lose money. And as a corollary, most people who trade just throw it at a hot tip. Bob says that stock's going up, so I'm going to buy me some. But they don't ever actually do the research themselves to understand what is driving that. And so they fail. And I extrapolate that out into the world at large. You don't have what you want because you don't know what that is. And you don't know what that is because you've taken somebody else's word for what it is you want. You're a member of the herd. Herd mentality says you want A, so you want A. And you've never looked inside yourself to say, do I really want A? Do I want B? Maybe I want X. I don't know. I've never done the math. And most people will sit down. I've had people sit down and give advice that you should do the things I'm talking about who've never done it for themselves because they've heard other people, other consultants or coaches or other people say this, and they have decided, yep, that's absolutely a good idea. One day I'm going to get around to that. But boy, I'm going to teach everybody I know that they ought to be doing what you're saying. And they don't know. They don't know firsthand because they've never done the work. You have to do the work. You have to sit down, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for us, you have to sit down with somebody else because you don't have insight or perspective on your own life. You can't ask yourself the meaningful questions because you are on a closed loop when you do that.
That's true.
When you sit...
You need that sounding board.
That's right. You sit and you talk to yourself about what you want, you're going to get nowhere fast. You're going to get some baseline. You're going to deduce some things about yourself in terms of how you like to spend your idle moments. But in terms of actually accomplishing something, no perspective, no insight. I cannot stand here in my skin seeing out of my eyeballs and expect to deduce exactly where I'm going or what I want, just looking through the lens. Because I don't see my face. I see the end of my nose a little bit, but I can't see where I am. I can't see what I'm doing. I can't see the mistakes I'm making. That's just life. That's the world we live in. Nobody does their own dental work, and there's a reason. You cannot see it. You just can't see it by yourself. That's why we need each other. And whether you go out and hire somebody to help you, not as relevant. You don't have to do that. It helps, obviously, but if you don't have the wherewithal to do that or the inclination or interest in doing that, don't. But yeah, you've got to find somebody that you trust, somebody who has no investment in you, who you can sit down and have this conversation with.
Ooh, good talk. That flew by.
Yeah, in fact, it did. But as you have so astutely pointed out, it is, in fact, time to wrap it up. So, once again, we offer our sincere thanks to that incredibly large body of people who are listening in.
Thanks, Mom. Sorry, I just had to do it one more time.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for showing up, and we'll get back together in a couple of days. Until then, and I'm going to say it, Dream your life.
And live your dreams.
Amen. Talk to you next time.
Alrighty, bye-bye.